Today we're going to talk about distractibility, and I'm going to help you understand within the context of a child's brain and why possibly we think we're being distracted when it may be the greatest source of our creativity and fueling our brain. I'm going to tell you a story about my grandson. One day, very recently, I took my grandson out and bought him a bat and a ball and a tee. He's 7 years old, so we're going to teach him t-ball, and so now he's got his glove and the balls and everything that he needs, and we're going to go to the park. So this little kid that has been told that he has ADD, we'll watch how his brain processes things, and then we're going to bring that back to you. So what I did very quickly is I took him out, and almost the first thing that I did is I set the tee down where it's like a stick that you put the ball on top of, to give you some context if you don't know that. And so I put the ball on the tee, and I had to be careful because I almost got whacked by the bat. I mean, he started swinging at the ball, and you know, if I put a ball on top of there, he was just swinging away. Didn't want to hear my instructions. I know how to do this, Grandpa, and he's ready to just go for it. So I let him do that for a few minutes, and I brought him back, and I said, okay, let me help you understand how this works. I stepped him through, even though he was a little bit antsy, I stepped him through. This is where your feet go. This is how you hold your feet. This is how far your bat is, reach the distance from the bat to the ball. This is how you hold your right arm, and here's how you hold the bat and how you swing it, and teaching him how to swing level. And so we kind of went through that. Very soon he got a little bit distracted, and he starts just swinging at that ball again, and the ball goes rolling off into the field, and he chases after it, and he's throwing it up in the air, and he's swinging at it. And we do that several times. I walk him through it, and I watch him each time swinging at it differently. And for a few minutes, he wanted to play catch for just a little bit, and then he was back to, this behavior that in most contexts, if this was a classroom situation, the teacher would have said, come back over here, come back over here. You need to be with the class. Stop goofing around. Stop being distracted. Focus. Sound familiar? Well, after about 4 times of doing this, of him swinging at the ball, and each time that I would go through the instruction again, and he would then be out in the field, he'd pick up the ball. He was doing different things. He'd kind of hit it like it was a golf club, or then he'd throw it in the air, and he'd whack at the ball, and then actually hit it with the bat. What's going on here? Well, the final time, he stepped up to the plate, put the ball on the tee, and repeated exactly what I said.
Chicken wing, bat up, hands by each other, and then stand back until the edge of it hits, and you swing.
And kept doing it. So what's going on here? Well, the first time, and all the other times leading up to this, his brain was sucking in data. He was not distracted. Distraction had nothing to do with it. Now, to the parent, or maybe to a teacher who has a bunch of other kids sitting around, and this kid's over there doing his own thing, the teacher's like, well, he's misbehaving, or the child is misbehaving. They need to get back with the rest of us. You understand what my grandson was doing is that each time that I taught him this, he would swing a few times, and he'd kind of swing down, and he'd do different things with the ball, and it was kind of wild. And you'd think, well, gee, this kid's just erratic. His brain was sucking in data on, gee, I hit the ball up here, I did this, and his brain is asking all sorts of questions on how this works for the larger context. So instead of just a little kid being taught how to swing a bat like a neurotypical kid would comply with, he would be compliant and just swing the bat how he was taught. My grandson was taking in all sorts of complex data. His supercomputer brain was processing all of these things to the final time when he got up there, he understood how it felt. His brain felt certain things. His brain could see what's the ball do when it's down, when it's up, when I hit it in the air. All of these things now giving his brain these great contextual pieces to begin a much more complex thinking skill. And I've seen him do this in other ways where he'll take in all sorts of data from either YouTube about construction or whatever it is, and walk out to the construction men that are in our complex where we are, and I'll actually tell them what to do, and the guy go, "That's right." He actually helped one of our maintenance men here solve a complex plumbing problem, and my 7-year-old grandson is not a plumber. Because he had watched so many of these things, his brain took it in and knew what to do with it. We are not distracted. We are simply processing the world around us in a different way than the neurotypical people do. But when we do those things and our brain kind of feels that world that's out there and what's going on, comes back and gives it information to be able to perform at a much higher level, because our brains are thinking differently. We have that real-time connection to the subconscious that the average neurotypical person does not have. And when our conscious and subconscious minds are connected like that, this throughput that's happening back and forth that doesn't happen, because it usually in the neurotypical person, generally most of it's one way in. This is in and out in a real-time supercomputer functioning, giving answers to problems that are very complex, and being a superhero. So I'm going to tell you, next time that you see your child doing something, or you think your teacher keeps saying they're not compliant, of course they're not compliant, because their brains are actually processing differently and better than the rest of those kids, and they're learning other things those kids aren't, so they can function at a higher level. And the minute you stifle that, the minute you cut that down, the minute you tell them to be compliant and sit still because you think they're distracted and they're running around, they're actually gathering data. Thanks very much. I hope this has been helpful and you just kind of take part in some of the other things that we're doing. Again, this is a small part of the bigger picture, and there's much deeper explanations as we work with people and we talk to them and they get our information and our blogs and our videos. Again, I encourage you to keep watching and take in the whole picture.